Hey, a lot of rain in the forecast. Have you looked at the next several days?
It is time to go inside.
I guess we get a little piece of Ian ourselves.
A little piece.
Right? But not the devastation that has wreaked havoc in Florida and down south. Well, to stay inside this weekend, may I recommend Parx Casino? This is how you win. Parx Casino, the number one casino in Pennsylvania, so close to New Jersey, New York, Delaware. They've got it all. Tonight, Blues Traveler. Tomorrow night, tickets remain. Dana Carvey. I mean, what a great thing to do on a Saturday night when it's raining all weekend long. And, of course, your game day destination for Saturdays and Sundays, the state-of-the-art sports book at Parx Casino, the reclining leather chairs, the 150-foot video wall, the VIP areas. Place your bets on all the games right there, and the Excite Center at Parx Casino, world-class entertainment. Paul Anka in early November. It's all great stuff. Got to be 21? Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Time now for the headlines from Smerconish.com, the newsletter. TC, there was a disconnect, I think, yesterday in terms of the votes on the poll question versus the callers, because the callers, to my recollection, were much more evenly divided on whether there's actually value in price gouging in the aftermath of a storm.
And how did we end up in the survey question?
Holy smokes. Agree or disagree, allowing so-called price gouging is actually the most efficient way to regulate supply after a storm. 87.94%, can we call it 88%, disagreed with that. More than 10,000 people cast their ballots.
Well, I think, as is usually the case on this program, we had a nuanced and thoughtful discussion about it, and it makes you think about the alternatives. I still voted with the majority on that, but I understand from the guests and the callers why that could have gone the other direction.
Well, I can tell you this, the opinion that there's something to be said for price gouging from an economist's standpoint is not some aberrant or one-off perspective. There are a lot of people who are economists who believe this. And I tell you that because not only did I discuss it here yesterday on POTUS, but I'm probably going to have this conversation on CNN tomorrow.
Right.
And I've got a whole menu of choices of economists who've written on exactly this subject.
And they're smart. And so they're seeing things I would never think of.
There's a school of
don't
thought
raise the
out
prices.
there.
Right, I know.
But I think that the callers were more evenly divided, and I always find interesting when there is that kind of a disconnect.
Right.
Okay, another storm-related poll question today. Will damage from Hurricane Ian change not only how we build, but also where we build? Stephen Strader is an associate professor of geography and the environment at Villanova University. He studies how human environments are vulnerable to natural disasters. And he wrote a provocative essay for CNN.com that is linked in the newsletter today that is really worthy. He points out that 30 years ago, Florida's Miami-Dade County was hit by a Category 5 Hurricane Andrew, leading to over $50 billion in losses, adjusted for inflation, destroying over 60,000 homes and leaving more than 170,000 homeless. In the wake of Andrew, the federal government enacted a plan to improve the construction quality of Florida homes, giving the state some of the strongest building codes in the nation. While Florida's improved construction standards may have somewhat protected against damage and enhanced survivability for those in the path of storms that followed, other disaster factors such as rapid, unchecked population growth and changing climate have tipped the disaster scale in the wrong direction. And further along, he says that the population growth in Florida, since Hurricane Andrew, Florida has grown nearly 60%, which is 2 times faster than the national average. He goes on to explain that all of that development, not all of that development, but a lot of that development has been at the expense of natural buffers to the rising waters and waves that come with hurricanes. They're now shrinking or gone, and they've been replaced by subdivisions. The whole point and the thumbnail for the YouTube presentation today has devastation from Florida and then the words rebuild here underlined with a big question mark, because it seems like the race is on to hurry up and get money allocated and let's rebuild. Hurry up, we've got to rebuild.
People are always going to want to be by the water, though. I mean, that's the thing, right?
Okay,
there's
but
no way.
But given the pace of climate change, at what point do we say probably shouldn't rebuild there?
I know, but then you say, "Oh, there's a 100-year storm." Okay, maybe we've had
500-year storm. 500-year storm.
Okay, 500-year storm, but we've had how many in the past 5 years? So I don't know. I can't see it changing. I really can't.
Do you know that
people are going to take their chances?
Do you know that on my website I have a page where I do a lot of public speaking for hire?
Yes, you do.
So much so that I have a whole page on my website, and
I've seen it.
It will survive into the new incarnation,
Coming
where there are like
soon.
nice photographs of me speaking to large groups all across the country, video of some significant speeches that I've delivered. If you were to peruse some of the photographs on my speaking page, the Engage Michael or Book Michael, whatever we call it on the website, there's a picture that you'll see of me, and I remember the night, and I can picture the image. It's me taking a selfie at the end of my speech. I'm at the podium. I just sort of turn around.
Of the group.
I mean, of the whole packed house.
Correct.
And it's an older white audience. That might make it stand out when you take a look. I am speaking on Sanibel Island.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
And I remember just how nice the people were who greeted me and came to the speech that night at Sanibel Island. Sanibel Island has a speakers series that I think they call the Forum, and they get a lot of big names, and I was very privileged to be among them.
Well, that's the footage from Sanibel, right? Yeah.
Totally cut off.
Totally cut off.
Totally
I mean,
cut
it's
off.
like the bridge is gone. It's just like
how, and I mean, like,
yeah.
What do you
can't
do?
Get help. I mean, I think they're just people are mobilizing so fast down there, and the list, the pictures of all the guys in the trucks, the electric guys. Now, of course, they're not going to be able to get to Sanibel, but I'm positive that as soon as possible, they'll get boats in there. They'll figure it out. They'll figure it out.
Scary stuff.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Scary stuff. How bad, this caught my eye from Florida today. How bad was Hurricane Ian? So bad that at least 35 Florida Waffle Houses closed.
That's the barometer.
The barometer right
It's kind
of like David Wasserman's analysis of Whole Foods versus Cracker Barrel. Like when you express it in those terms, like, damn, they closed 35 Waffle Houses.
The Waffle Houses closed.
Even Waffle Houses. I referenced the race being on to like, hurry up, we got to rebuild.
Right.
The New York Times, among others, noting this. As a freshman congressman in 2013, Ron DeSantis was unambiguous. A federal bailout for the New York region after Hurricane Sandy was an irresponsible boondoggle, a symbol of the put it on the credit card mentality, quote unquote, his words, that he had come to Washington to oppose. I sympathize with the victims, he said, but his answer was no. Nearly a decade later, as his state confronts devastation and costly destruction wrought by Hurricane Ian, DeSantis is appealing to the nation's better angels and betting on its short memory. As you say, Tucker, we live in a very politicized time, he said to Tucker Carlson Wednesday night, outlining his request for full federal reimbursement up front for 60 days and urging the Biden administration to do the right thing.
I mean, there you go. He's
rebuild here? I mean, I think it's a hell of a question.
It's a great question.
I have no doubt that the race will be on to hurry up as long as the insurance companies remain solvent and rebuild right where they were.
Right where they were.
Right where
I
they
think you're
were.
100% right, but it'll be interesting to see what the poll survey comes, what the numbers come up with.
TC.
Yes, sir.
Tagovailoa.
Is he okay?
I think that's the pronunciation. Tua Tagovailoa. Okay, I have to tell you a story.
Okay.
I have got to tell you the story.
Oh boy.
So I'm reading in. I'm reading. I guess I was reading in late last night on a train home from Washington, D.C., as I referenced at the National Organization on Disability, where I had the privilege of saluting former Pennsylvania Governor Tom Ridge last night, surrounded by a lot of just really good people who do God's work. Congrats to the NOD, by the way. Anyway, I become aware of this headline. Miami Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa taken to hospital with head and neck injuries. I read the headline and I say to myself, I knew it. I knew they should never have put him back in that game last week. I knew he was going to have a problem like this. I hope he's okay. And then I read the story, and I'm like, holy crap, no, it happened again to this guy. Anybody who watched last weekend's game against the Bills knows that guy should never have gone back into that game. I don't know if you know the hit that I'm talking about, but he took a hit on the turf, and he got up all wobbly and disoriented. And amidst and online, the ridicule of the NFL was all over the place. Like, how in the world, with this concussion problem that you have, has this guy passed the protocol? Oh my God! I just remembered. I saw somebody on Twitter said, this is again last weekend,
so
although 5 days ago, 5 days before the
Did he
Thursday.
go back into that game?
Yes. Yes.
Oh.
Last Sunday.
Oh.
So someone made fun of the NFL protocol via
what's
Twitter.
it
It stands out in my mind, where they showed a TSA screening, like somebody goes through TSA screening.
Yeah, you're fine.
And somebody said, this must be the level of screening that Tua went through last weekend.
Okay, but now is he okay?
He's been discharged from the hospital.
Oh, thank God. Okay.
And here's, Dateline Cincinnati, Miami Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa was taken to a local hospital with head and neck injuries suffered on a second quarter sack in Thursday night's game against the Bengals. He hit the back of his head on the ground when he was sacked by Bengals nose tackle Josh Tupoa, and his arms appeared to seize up almost immediately. He remained on the field for roughly 10 minutes before he was loaded onto a stretcher and taken away. The Dolphins said shortly before halftime that he was conscious and had movement in all his extremities.
Please, dear Lord.
But, here's a guy at the top of his game. He shouldn't continue to play. He should not continue to play.
He needs to recover and then continue to play.
I don't know. I do know that.
This isn't career ending, right? It's more that he just needs to recover.
I mean, are you joking? Are you telling me that in 20 years' time he's going to be 100% in retirement? No way. And I hope I'm wrong.
Right.
We had a phone caller this week. We talked, of course, about the MLB authentication program.
Of course.
And somebody called and told a Mike Webster story. Mike Webster was the longtime center for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and his life ended, I think, at his own hand. I'm not sure, but very, very sad CTE situation. Yeah. I mean, surely these guys, I don't know, they have to look at others and say, my God, is that going to be me
someday?
Is that going to be me someday?
Ugh.
Yesterday, a lot of interest when we played the audio of Jackie. Where's Jackie?
True.
Right? So one day later, you've got Vice President Kamala Harris. After President Biden looked for a member of Congress in the audience that a month ago he praised at the time of her death, one day later, it's Vice President Kamala Harris making an unforced error of global proportions when she's at the DMZ, right, on the Korea side, or South Korea side, and she says this.
So the United States shares a very important relationship, which is an alliance with the Republic of North Korea.
Oh, my God. How does that happen? The Republic of North Korea.
I have no idea.
The Republic of North Korea.
I have no idea how that happens.
What did we decide yesterday was going to be the Sunday poll question?
We're in discussion.
But what was the subject matter? Do you remember? Sorry if I'm catching you cold.
No, you're not catching me cold. So the thought was, do you want to do something about whether high school love letters are exceptions from the KonMari rule? Yeah,
I don't want to do that now.
Oh.
I want to do something on a story that we have posted from Gothamist at Smerconish.com.
Okay.
Headline, New York City Council legislation would prevent discrimination against people with tattoos.
Is there such a thing? Are people discriminated against because they have tattoos?
I think they probably are.
Why?
I think they probably are.
That's ridiculous.
Well, I can think of a place where I like to frequent where she's the hostess, I guess I would say, is wearing a brace on her forearm, and it's to cover a tat.
And she's wearing it to cover the tat?
Yes. And when I walk in, I always say, hey, how's the arm coming? Oh, it's still the same.
Wait, I don't understand. Why does she need to cover the tat?
In a fancy place, she's covering her ink. And I know that it's a house rule.
Okay, that is
I
so
know that it's a
interesting to
house
me.
rule.
I think about like all the Peloton instructors are tatted. All
Right
of them.
now, in the world of Peloton, like you have to get tatted. Wait,
you don't.
Wait a minute. You want to be a Peloton? Although
have
Leanne has a tat that I think she's blurred
Oh, really?
on her right wrist.
As you're looking at her?
Well, I'm constantly working out.
Of course, you're constantly working out.
Yeah.
That's interesting to me.
Yeah.
No, I
Wait, did I say Hannah or Leanne?
You said Leanne. Did
Yeah,
you mean
Leanne.
Leanne. Okay.
Yeah. Hannah has no ink that you can see.
There you go.
You think she has ink?
I don't know.
So listen to this. A bill before the New York City Council would outlaw discriminating against people with tattoos in the workplace, signing a lease, or seeking access to public services. The bill would add, this is what it really means. The bill would add tattoo to the list of categories in the city's administrative code that are already prohibited from discrimination, such as race, sexual orientation, gender, and age.
Okay,
so are we going to put tats
that's
in that?
ridiculous. First of all,
are
that's
we putting
ridiculous
tats in that
because-
rarefied
no,
area?
You choose to get a tattoo, but I think the question is
You don't choose your race, your sexual orientation, your gender, or your age.
correct.
That's a good point.
The question is, can you make some kind of immediate assumption about someone because they have a tattoo? And my answer to that is absolutely not. People get tattoos for a variety of reasons. I don't judge anyone for having tattoos. One of my favorite people in the whole world is covered with tattoos, and he is a gem of all gems, brilliant, fabulous. I just like there's just no
It would still
there's
allow.
there's no conclusion that you can get when you see that someone has a tattoo.
It would still. Well, I think in a bygone era, you would have thought hoodlum, to use a word that is dated.
Way bygone. Bygone.
It would still allow bosses to require their employees to cover a tattoo if it is a necessary condition for the job. But wait a minute. Is it a necessary condition for the job for the hostess at the fancy place that I'm thinking of? Is that necessary?
to cover it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, where would it ever be necessary?
Would it offend you?
Where would it ever be necessary?
I in my mind, I don't care. I literally do not care if someone has a tattoo.
However, employers would have the responsibility of proving that the absence of a tattoo is necessary and that there is no less discriminatory means of satisfying the occupational qualification.
All right, we got to come back to this.
Where could
I
the
need to talk
employer
to people about this?
Where could the employer ever meet the burden of saying, no, it's necessary that you cover the tattoo?
I don't know the answer to
because by this logic, you're going to say anybody who'd be upset with it is biased.
Yeah.
So we're not going to satisfy their bias. That would be like saying I'm going to make you cover your pigmentation.
But no, it's not, because again, the tattoo is a choice. So I go back to it's not in that list of rarefied. It's not in that rarefied list, but I'm not offended by it, and you shouldn't be discriminated against because you have a tattoo. But there are certain workplace requirements for how you dress and maybe your appearance. You can't come in with a shower cap on your head. And
a little less
crazy,
so though than it used to be. Hey, anyway, I want that
You're
to be...
always telling me to brush my hair.
Yeah, still am. I want that to be the Sunday poll question, okay?
Oh, okay. How would you like to word it?
I can't do it on the fly because there's one other story that I want to get in before the end of the
story.
week. Okay, the other story is this. So the death certificate for Her Majesty was published yesterday. Very interesting just to see, and very simply stated old age. I wondered if she'd had a fall. I think it's still possible that maybe she had, because 48 hours prior, I think it was 1 day prior, 2 days prior, she greeted the new British Prime Minister and she was on her feet.
Amazing.
But anyway, she died at 3:10 p.m. on September 8th. Okay, TC?
Right.
So at this time of year, I believe they are 5 hours ahead of us, which would have been the 10 a.m. hour while we were on air.
Interesting.
My recollection is that we came on that day. I may be mistaken, but I think we came on that day and already there were reports in the news that there was concern about her health.
That was my recollection, and that the palace was not dampening down the rumors. In other words, there were rumors going around. The palace was not stopping them. It felt very different, and the family at that time was all rushing to get to Balmoral.
Correct, but it was several hours later before there was confirmation.
Oh, yeah, I was home and working out.
I said to you on air that day, you know, TC, this is what it looks like if she's already dead.
You said that.
And she was.
And she was.
And she was.
And she was.
And Harry, like, what took him so long?
Who knows? Don't judge. Don't do that.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Don't end the week that way.
Ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow, 7:30 YouTube Live, preceding my 9 a.m. CNN program. I'll still be heavily storm-focused for sure. Give TC some play on her cemetery episode of TC After Dark. I've got some great book club releases.
You sure do.
My
and more
book
coming
club,
up next week.
You know,
very excited.
Rainy weekend in the northeastern part of the state. Godspeed to those who are down south and dealing with all the devastation, but maybe you want to get caught up on a podcast or two. And it occurs to me, 1 week from today, company comes to town for the Unconvention. Looking forward to seeing and meeting many of you, and those who got closed out. Everybody's going to get to watch. Everybody's going to get to listen. So it's hard for me to believe that's just a week away. Stay safe this weekend. Thank you for watching, and thank you for listening.